Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of BC Buckets. I'm Matthew Bruni, and joining me is Colin Mitchell. Today, Colin, we have Nick Smith versus Keyonte George in a versus. It's interesting because these are very similar players.
Yeah.
Like, I did this on purpose when I put them against each other, was saying, like, all right, who's the better scoring guard that doesn't play? I mean, that can play defense, but doesn't play a ton of defense. A high volume guy, maybe not the best shot selection guy. Very similar in those ways. We can get that out the way right off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, Keontae George has a different level that he can go to that Nick Smith doesn't. And I think we're kind of aligned on that. So we start with Keontae George. What
Yep.
are your initial thoughts of him? Baylor, freshman, 19 and a half years old, 6'4", 15 points per game. Only shot 38% from the field and 34% from three, 80% from the line, though. What are your thoughts on Keontae George?
By the shot. That his shot is amazing. I mean, I think that automatically makes him, even though the percentages went there, like you said, catch and shoot guy, very least first year. But he has the midi, he has the three, he has the hand in the face, he has the whatever you want. Pull up, doesn't matter. By the shot. Second thing is if he can develop it, the pick and roll potential that he has with all of this. Because if he can put together with all of his ability to move around and with the pick and roll potential there, that's where when we talk about it. That's where I think the second level is. That's where I think he surpasses Nick Smith.
Yeah, from a scoring perspective, starting with Keontae, I agree with you. The shot I've bought. Like I watched a ton of Baylor this year,
Yeah,
and you, even though I probably at some point knew the percentage, if you would have asked me what percentage Keontae George was shooting from three, I would have said like high 30s. Just because
right.
every time he shot it, I thought it was going in. Like that was my feeling of watching Baylor this whole season was this guy is a pro, like right out the gates. Now, I will say a preface about Keontae George and Baylor, kind of like how we talked about Anthony Black with Arkansas and Nick Smith with Arkansas as well. Baylor relies on their guards to do so much in the half court that at times they don't take good shots. That's for
Yep.
everybody. Every guard that's come through there, they can take tough shots. Adam Flagler, that's still there. LJ Cryer, those guards just take tough shots. And so it wasn't the easiest offense to run. It's a lot of isolation type situations for them. And that's not to give him an excuse because Nick Smith worked at Arkansas where they didn't have any spacing. So, the percentages being low for both of them aren't the reason, are not alarms to me.
Mm.
Um, Keontae George also I thought was really good at drawing fouls, creating contact, finishing through contact at times. Not, I mean, wasn't great in that, but he could do it. The isolation score potential I think is very, very high. Even though he doesn't have the deepest bag, like I think he can get to his spot, elevate, and I just think he's going to be a really, really efficient shooter pretty quickly in his career. So yeah, that I'm buying all of that offensively. The passing at times was another thing that separates him from Nick Smith. So yeah, I'm buying that Keontae George offense. Nick Smith, it's hard because both were so highly rated out of high school. Like we're talking
Yeah.
two, I think they're both top 20. I think Keontae George was top 10. But I think Nick Smith will be a good shooter as well. Like I think you go back, the high school tape is there of him being a reliable 3-point shooter. Arkansas, he only played 17 games. He missed like the first half of the season almost entirely. So he comes back, plays 17 games, still is a really good player for them and helps them beat Kansas in the second round of the NCAA tournament. So I'm not selling Nick Smith. I'm just higher on Keyonte George.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think both of them are 3 level scorers in what they can do. The
Yeah.
difference between Keontae George and Nick Smith is I think that Keyonte George likes to draw contact a lot more than
Mm-hmm.
Nick Smith does, which I think is big, especially in the NBA. And with both guys not being, how much does Nick Smith weigh? Nick Smith's weight is buck 85, and
Yeah.
then Keyonte George I think is the same. The same. So I think the physicality of the NBA is going to be tough for both these guys, but I think the willingness of Keyonte George not being afraid of contact is helpful for him. To go back to what you said about Keyonte too, I think the thing that impresses me most about the shot over Nick Smith is that he's able to get his feet set off of in any way, off
Yeah.
of a
Pin down.
screen, off
Yeah.
of a pin down, anything. And I think that's what's going to instantly make him, a shooter. Like that's going to get him on the floor day one, I think. Whereas Nick Smith, yes, he can shoot. He only shot 33.3% from three, but it passed the eye test to me.
Mm-hmm.
It's just I don't know if it's going to be there when he steps on the NBA floor day one.
A big difference here, to give Nick Smith a little bit of credit. I do think he's more comfortable in the mid range. He kind of operated in that space a lot more than Keyonte did. Keyonte was kind of more of a 3-point shoot. I don't have the volume in front of me, but it felt like Keyonte George operated more behind the arc. Nick Smith kind of in the mid range a lot, at least off the dribble. And so, with that being the case, I liked his change of pace a bit. I liked the handle, even though it wasn't overly complex. He was able to get to his spots in the mid range and really show that he has good touch there. So I was happy with that. The thing with Nick Smith, he doesn't get to the rim the way Keyonte does. He's not
At
as
all.
explosive as an athlete
Yeah.
as Keyonte. Keyonte had some dunks this year that I was like, okay, like this is a guy who can get to the rim and finish with authority. Yeah, Nick Smith doesn't get to the rim. I don't have his free throw attempt rate in front of me, but I'm
Let
assuming
me
that's
give you a
not.
stat though. He only took, obviously he was injured. He only took 33 shots at the rim. On those shots, he was 16.8%.
Okay, so yeah, shot about two a game there at the
Yeah.
rim. But yeah, he wasn't into the rim. Like I said, the spacing wasn't great for this Arkansas team, but still, I don't see that being a strength for him by any means. And then just in general, his shot selection, I don't think was, and neither one had great shot selection, right? That's why the percentages were so low. But to me, Nick Smith, because he's in the mid range so much, can like take those awkward shots where it gets contested late and then it becomes a hard shot, or he tries passing out of it, stuff like that. So, yeah, I'm giving Keyonte George to me has the edge as an athlete. Who's the better defender to you? Even though I don't think that either one's
I
great.
think Nick Smith for sure, and that I think outside of technical reasons, it's entirely effort based. There was a lot of times when I was watching Keyonte George, and it's just like he gets the ball stolen, he just kind of freezes. There's no hustle there. Obviously, I think on ball he's a little bit more engaged, but if he gets picked or if he's off ball, I think he kind of lapses in judgment. Whereas Nick Smith, I think, is better at that. Obviously, both of them, I think, size is an issue, so they're not going to be plus defenders in the NBA. I don't think that's a possibility for either of them.
Yeah,
but 6'4", 185.
yeah. That's the interesting part of this is defensively to see if maybe one of them can take a step forward and surprise us there. I'm looking through potential questions I have for either one. I think I've covered all of them.
Who do you think is the better decision making in terms of, because obviously we already kind of talked about like both get sped up, I think is pretty agreeable. But I feel like Keyonte George in a certain sense almost gets more sped up than Nick Smith does. And that it was like instantly telegraphed the second.
But at the same time, Keyonte, I think, is a better passer.
Which is weird because I would agree with you, like in terms of how
but
he
I
passes.
get what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's like he can get sped up, but he has the flashes. It is a lot more kind of boom or bust to me, and which is the reason why Keyonte had 3 turnovers per game. Nick Smith had 1.6. Like George was trying to do more in terms of passing the ball. He also had 1 more assist than Nick Smith for what it's worth. So, yeah, they as far as passing goes, neither one is great, but George at least has the flashes to where if it slows down for him, he can make those timely passes in pick and roll situations and just in general as a secondary or tertiary creator. Who are some comps you have? Let's do Keyonte first. Who are the comps you have for Keyonte?
For Keyonte, I have one written down.
Okay.
Eric Gordon. And that's not like a ceiling thing. It's just the type of player. Like when I make my comps, I don't go like this is the ceiling of player. It's just the type. Like that's who he reminds me of. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think ceiling wise, I think he can get to that fringe all-star like starting guard level.
A lot of people say Bradley Beal, and I see that.
I see it.
Ceiling. I see it as a ceiling.
But the thing about Bradley Beal is I feel like, and I could be completely wrong because obviously I don't watch a lot of Wizards being a Pistons fan. I feel like defensively he's just a lot better.
I don't think he's a lot better. I think these guys could be, if they fill out a bit, Keyonte George, I think, could be a strong defender, or at least a serviceable defender. Obviously, I'm betting on his offense when I speak of him this highly. I think he offensively can get to that level, to where it doesn't matter what his defense is. I think he does have that Bradley Beal upside. I think he has that Bradley Beal potential. I think at some point in his career, he could average 25 points per game.
He looks like a guy that could do it.
He could do it. He will
Yeah.
get the shots up if he's on the court.
Yes, he will.
He has the capability of doing it. So that's where I'm buying Keyonte George. Outside of Bradley Beal, I have 3 players here, all role players. So like you said, I'm not saying this is what he's going to be. J.R. Smith, even though J.R. Smith at a young age was a little more explosive as far as an athlete goes. Jordan Clarkson.
I think Jordan Clarkson. I like Jordan Clarkson a lot, actually.
Okay. And then I have Malik Monk written down. I don't know if I completely love it, but I was just thinking of like a long shooter, kind of in a way. Even though Keontae's not super long as Malik, but yeah, Jordan Clarkson I think is a very capable one to be a volume scorer. Like of anybody in this class, he could be that volume scorer.
Yeah,
like straight out. We were high on Jaden Hardy last year. Remember, like Keyonte George could be a very very similar type of guard in terms of his scoring potential.
And then for Nick Smith, who do you have? I have 3 written down, actually.
2. I have 2, and one's funny because he's on the Heat. I have Caleb Martin written down.
Okay.
Caleb Martin, which I kind of like because I think Caleb Martin obviously has a really good feel for the game here, which I see, and he can operate in different parts of the court. I like that. I see a little bit of obviously a thin frame. Nick Smith, why not? Secondly, because he operates so much in the mid range, I just kept watching him operate like time after time after time, coming off it, getting into a spot, elevating, hitting. Because of that, I have CJ McCollum written down.
Ooh.
Which may or may not
CJ
be
McCollum's an interesting one. Okay, I have 4. Depends.
So you were making fun of me. You said
3.
I have too many comps.
Well, you on most of them, most of the time you've been having like 4 or 5. All right, so I have also a Heat player. I have Tyler Hero.
Okay, I like that.
I have Lou Williams.
I like that. Even though Lou Williams is like 6'1".
Yeah, but they're small. Good point though. Jordan Crawford. Wow. Jamal Crawford. I don't know why I said Jordan Crawford. Jamal Crawford.
I don't see that one as much.
And then
okay.
Yeah, I mean handle wise, yeah. This is the one that I think I like the most. If his high school / playmaking abilities play out, D'Lo.
D'Angelo Russell.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not mad at that one at all, actually. D'Angelo was
he was really, really good
coming out of college. I mean, second pick overall for a reason there.
Yeah.
But scoring upside, I can see it. I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at that at all. Because D'Lo also has pretty long. How tall is D'Lo? Like 6'4", 6'3", 6'4", somewhere like that, and pretty long arms. Obviously not great defender, good passer, not a great passer, looking to be a shooter first. I'm cool with that. 6'4", yeah. So I'm cool with that. I like that. All right. See what happens when you have a bunch of different comps. We can just go down the list.
Yeah, we can just talk about different comps.
Good. This one sucks, and you get to talk through it even more. So, anyways, I think that's all we got. Keyonte George, Nick Smith. There we go. We were both a little higher on Keyonte George. By the end of this process, Colin, Keyonte George might be a top 8 or 9 player for me.
Can't do it.
I'm gonna have to say. I know you're not there.
Well, no,
I'm gonna have to see. It might be. Who knows? We still have a lot of players left to get to in this series, but I can't talk myself out of him. The potential of him potentially being Bradley Beal. Like
we already have 8 players who are solidly in the top 10. Victor, Scoot, Brandon Miller, the Thompson twins, Cam Whitmore, Jarris Walker, Taylor Hendricks, if you want to put him up there, I guess.
No, that's it. Those are the 7. Those are my top 7. I have tiers, Colin. I have tiers. It's Victor and Scoot, then the other 5 you named.
Right.
And then the next tier, right now, Keyonte George is at the top for me. Right now. We'll
see. He's top of tier 3?
Somebody's going to have to supplant him at the top of tier 3. Okay. That's all I'm saying. At this moment right now. By the time people are watching this, Colin, we're going to have scouted a lot more players and have a different list. But at this moment right now, May 31st, I have Keyonte George, number 8 on my board.
Okay.
So there you go. All right. We thank y'all for watching. Leave us a like, comment, share, subscribe. Reply in the comments who you think is the better player between Nick Smith and Keyonte George. Who do you want your team to draft? I mean, in the mocks, they're anywhere from what?
They're weird with him.
10 to 20?
Yeah.
10 to 20 range, something like that. So yeah, if you're in the 10 20 range, let us know if you want your team to draft them. Also in the replies, if there's a duo that you want to see in a versus series, let us know. I'm not sure when this is coming out, but it'll be out at some point. So yeah, we appreciate y'all for watching, and we'll be back soon.